Hey there, my name's Tom Quayle and I just want to welcome you to this demo of the fantastic Empress Phaser Pedal. This demo is going to give you an extensive introduction to the features and an overview of this pedal in general, let you hear some of the sounds. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so here's the unit itself, and first thing we'll do is we'll just go through the controls, because it's a fairly complex little unit. Very fully featured, and as you can see there's a lot of switches and dials on here, but it's all fairly easy to use and explain. So if we start with the top row of switches, across here we've got the mode switch, which basically selects between tap tempo mode, then we've got knob mode and auto mode. We have a speed range mode, which also has different functions depending on whether you're in auto or tap tempo mode, or in knob mode. We've got slow, medium and fast, okay, and I'll demonstrate all of this later on. We've got the stages button select switch, which basically selects the number of stages in your phasing effect. So we've got 2 or 4. Now 4 is the usual number that you would have on a phaser pedal, and then we can have 2 as well, but 3 is unique to this particular pedal, so that's kind of cool to have that feature, 3-step phasing. So we'll get into that later as well. We've then got a resonance control, where we can select no resonance or resonant peaks within our phasing effect, a little bit of resonance or lots of resonance, and again we'll demonstrate that later on. The expression switch, basically I won't be able to demo that now because I don't have an expression pedal or MIDI units, but I'll talk you through that at the end of the video so you can understand what that's for. And then down the front of the unit we've got a blend control, which is basically like a mix control for the amount of effect. We have a speed and ratio control, which also controls the sensitivity when you're in auto mode. The width of the actual phaser effect, which also is a release control again for in auto mode. And then we've got a series of different waveforms that we can select from using the waveform control, and there's also a sub mode select there as well, again for in auto. And then gain. Now there's a lot of gain on this pedal. So that's kind of useful to have that much gain that you can add into your original signal. We've got ins and outs, and then the control port input, which again I'll go through at the end of the video. Tap tempo button, you can see it's flashing the LED there in the tempo that I've selected already, and then the bypass switch. So what we'll do is we'll start with tap tempo mode, and I'll go through that for you, let you hear some sounds and how it works. Then we'll do the knob mode, and then we'll do auto mode. So starting in tap tempo, here's my clean sound, and I'm running my Sir Classic into a Port City Pearl head, just using a clean setting, and we get this. Okay, let me turn the effect on by hitting the bypass switch. You'll see the blue LED goes on. Really nice, luscious analog phasing there going on, and you'll hear very little noise from this effect at all. Really, really cool. Okay, so what we've got at the moment is we're in tap tempo mode, and by using the tap tempo button on the actual unit, I can change the tempo of my phasing. So if I go in and tap, you'll see just a couple of taps and that updates the speed of the actual unit. And you can go as fast as you can physically tap. Okay, so let me put something slightly more sensible in. Okay. And as you can see, I've got my width just over halfway here, so it's quite a wide phasing effect that we've got going here. Now, the speed control is basically going to affect the ratio of the speed against my basic setting that I've got here. So if you imagine that's quarter notes at the moment. As I move the speed setting up, you'll see that we hit this 2 to 3 ratio. And this is now giving me triplets, and you'll see that the LED is updated to reflect that. As I move up again to the next setting, we've got 1 to 2, and effectively we've got 8th notes now. And again, as I move around, now we've got effectively what is eighth note triplets. Really luscious sounding, it sounds superb. And then move around again, and in effect we have 16th notes. And whatever tempo that you tap into the unit, obviously it will create the ratios for you. So you've got this great analog sounding phaser, but with this kind of digital ability to process the sound in very precise ways. Okay, so just really quickly, let's go back to the blend control, and I'll show you this because it works the same way for all the settings. If I keep this at 16th notes for a minute and move the blend up and down, there we've got, basically you always end up with the same amount of clean signal. So this is more of a mix control rather than kind of, if you turn it all the way up, you won't just have phased signal basically. So at the moment we've just got our clean sound. If I increase that to halfway, we've mixed in 50%, mixed in, that's the operative word here, mixed in 50% of our phased signal. And then I can move all the way up, and basically now I've got 100% phase signal and 100% clean. We always have 100% clean. Now you can actually use a dip switch within the unit itself if you unscrew the back to change that so it becomes, rather than a mix control, or a blend control I should say, I've been saying mix, I mean blend, it becomes a true mix control in that you can get rid of all the clean signal and have pure wet signal. So we've got phased and clean there as well. So I'm just going to set that back to about 1 o'clock. Okay, so let's go back to our normal 1-to-1 ratio, so in this case quarter notes, and just quickly show you the width control. This is going to affect the wideness of our phased waveform, and there's a few waveforms to choose from that we'll go through later on, but at the moment we're just on a sine wave, so we're affecting the amplitude or the width of the actual sine wave in this case. So here we go. So on full settings there, we've got a very wide phased sound going on. And with a higher ratio setting, that's very cool for kind of reggae style. Very responsive as well, this unit really responds well to the attack of your picking, which is really, I mean, it just feels very, very, very solid and very, very well well made, and just very reactive, basically very organic. Okay, so if I just bring the width down now, that's halfway. Very musical, but obviously more subtle, and then again bring it down. With it all the way down, we end up with a more nasal kind of sound, very, very small amount of phasing going on, but you can hear it's really affected the signal. Okay, so again, let's put that around 1 o'clock. Okay, now the next control, the waveform control, we've got a series of different waveforms that come with this unit. Setting 1 is basically, there's 8 settings in total, but setting 1 is a sine wave. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run you through each of the waveforms so you can hear them one after the other, using basically the same chord. There's really, again, nothing unmusical that you can find in this pedal. Every single waveform that you use is going to sound great. So that's the sine wave. Now the next setting, setting number 2, is a triangle wave. Okay, so have a listen to the difference. So slightly less smooth in the way it rides up and down the wave, obviously because we peak up into a point as opposed to a curve. Okay, we then have an asymmetrical sine wave, which sounds like this. It's got slightly more pronounced peaks and troughs, that one, to my ears. Okay. And then the next one is basically, you'll hear it looks a bit like a sine wave, but you'll hear the rhythmic effect that's going on here. We almost get like a dotted 8th note and a 16th note feel. If I increase the ratio on that one. Very cool. Okay, let's go back down. Okay, the next waveform is basically like this. And now we're starting to get into things that sound a little bit more vocal in their nature, which is really cool. Now, if you can get these and hit them off the beat, get a very cool sound. It's very rhythmic, adds an extra element to your playing that would be very hard to recreate any other way. Okay, so next waveform, waveform number 6. Okay, this is a reverse of the previous waveform. So again, you can do that cool offbeat thing. Very, very nice indeed. Okay, next waveform is a square wave. So you'll hear now basically the abrupt change in the actual waveform. So again, it's fairly vocal sounding. Let me increase the ratio on this one. And our final waveform is basically a random waveform. So you get this. And you can hear the way basically, and by watching the light, you can see that we've got, in effect, a random square wave going on. Okay, so let's move on to the next mode. Okay, so I'm going to switch this over to the knob mode now. Now you can see immediately that the tempo has rapidly increased, and that's because now the actual tempo is being controlled by 2 features, not the tap switch. Okay, but obviously the LED above is still showing us what the tempo is. What's controlling the speed now is both a combination of the speed knob here and the speed range switch at the top. Okay, so the dial here, if I turn it from left to right, you can see the actual speed LED decreasing. Now I'm actually going to switch this back to a sine wave just for now, so it's easier for you guys to see. Okay, so you can see the speed increasing, decreasing, sorry, and increasing as I turn to the right or clockwise. Okay, now within this speed range, we have 3 settings on here. We have a slow, medium, and fast. If I bring the knob, the switch over to the left, you see the speed decrease, and this basically gives me a certain range of speed, ranging from very, very slow, I mean almost almost too hard to hear basically if I just bring the speed up there. Okay, now you can see it's actually modulating, at a reasonable pace. Again, if I play a chord, okay, so my maximum speed within this setting is here basically. Within the medium range, if I switch over, you can see we actually end up with a fairly fast phasing. So we're back about where we were at the end of the slow range. If I increase the speed about halfway, just under. And then all the way up, gets pretty quick actually. Almost in sort of ring modulator territory at that point. And then bring it up to the faster setting. Okay, and so fast now you can't even see the LED moving. Fully into kind of ring modulator-esque territory, and as I bring it down, maybe about halfway, you can see it rapidly moving. Combine that with some crazy delay effects and you'll have something kind of very weird to play with, very cool. So a huge array of sounds within this unit, and they all sound crystal clear, as I'm sure you can hear. There's no kind of noise or weird degradation of signal going on here, and of course this is a true bypass pedal when it's bypassed as well. Okay, so that's the knob mode, and of course the width and the waveforms all do a similar thing. So if I just switch back to a different, let's go for that random square wave. Obviously at that speed you can't really hear it. Let's go back to medium. Okay. And again, you can hear there, the harder I hit the guitar, it's responding really, really well to the amount of signal that's going into the unit. Okay, so that is effectively how the knob mode works. However, let me just at this stage run through a couple of the other switches at the top of the unit, and I'm going to run through the stages and the resonance controls just to let you hear the different effects that are available. So what I'm going to do is just set a slightly slower tempo on the actual unit and go back to a sine wave. Again, because this is the kind of phasing that we're all used to hearing, so you can really gauge this a little bit better. But of course, these controls work for all of the different waveforms available. Okay, so at the moment, the stages switch, which is here, is set to 3 all the way to the right, and it gives us this sound. Okay, so basically we've got a 3-pole phasing going on here, or what they call all-pass poles. So this gives us a particular sound. It's actually unique to this pedal having 3 poles going on at the same time. Now if I switch across to 2, in effect you end up with a slightly less pronounced effect, but really you just want to think of it as a different sound. So here we go. Okay, now if I switch across to 4-pole, okay, this is what you'll find in most sort of standard phasing units, most pedal, guitar-based, sort of a single pedal unit for a phaser rather than something this complicated. So we get this. Okay, and then back across to 3-pole just so you can hear the difference again. Okay, so those are the different sounds available in terms of the stages part of the actual unit. Now if we go for resonance, at the moment I've got the resonance control, which is this fourth switch across, set to a little bit of resonance basically. So we're getting that kind of very nasally peak in each of the waveforms. Now if I set it to the central position, in effect what this does is it makes the phasing sort of smoother and less pronounced, giving you a more subtle effect. So here's the same kind of thing played with the setting in the middle. Okay, let me set it to lots of resonance. And then finally, just to hear for reference again, back to less. Okay, so as far as the standard modes go, the tap tempo and the knob modes, that kind of covers pretty much everything that's available to you. The really super interesting stuff happens when you start going into auto mode. So what we'll do now is we'll flick over to auto mode and I'll explain some of the features and some of the seriously cool things that this pedal can do whilst in that mode. Okay, so I've moved the mode switch over to auto, and the basically the way this works is there's basically set 8 different sub modes, and the final sub mode has a load of different rhythms that you can use with it as well, and we'll go through those separately. But basically we're on sub mode number 1. We've got the blend set pretty much exactly the same as it was before. Now in this case, what happens now is these black labels underneath and on the top here come into play in auto mode, and basically the controls change their function slightly. So what was the speed and ratio control now controls the sensitivity, and that is basically the sensitivity of the unit to pick attack. So how much and how quickly it basically reacts to the amount of volume that you're sending into the unit via your pick attack. The release is the exact opposite, working a little bit like a compressor basically. So the release basically is the opposite, so how long it takes for the signal to go back to normal. Now the attack time sensitivity can be changed here from slow to medium to fast. So what was the speed range now controls slow, medium and fast attack times, and we'll try a few different things out. And then our waveform control basically controls which sub mode we're in. Now sub mode 1 is called phase shift follows envelope. And reading, so I get this exactly right for you, I'm going to read this from the manual. It says the center of the phase shift changes according to how loud you play. Okay, so basically what that's going to give us is almost like an auto wah kind of sound. So as I play, you can hear basically as I'm attacking a little bit louder, you can see the control is reacting as I pick. Okay, so when the actual LED goes red, it means that I've hit the maximum volume that the unit will take. Everything in between is the unit reading my pick attack. So as I adjust the sensitivity down, I have to pick harder to hit maximum volume. And in fact there, I'm struggling to even hit maximum volume. So your goal basically with the sensitivity control is to get it so that when you hit the hardest, you're getting that maximum volume. So let's set it roughly back to where it was. A little bit louder. Okay, So when we've got that, we can control the attack time. So using this function here, if I set a slow attack time, it's going to take longer on a harder pick attack for the phase to ramp up, or in this case for the phase shift to follow the envelope of my attack. Which effectively would be like using setting the auto while to a slower speed effectively. Okay, if I set a fast attack, okay, moving the control all the way over to the right. We just get a faster attack in terms of the actual phase effect. Okay, so using the release switch control, we can actually change the amount of time it takes for the phased signal to come back down to normal. Which in this case is adding to a more subtle kind of effect. Okay, so let's bring the release down. Okay, so lots and lots of control available here, and that's just submode number 1. So let's have a look at submode number 2. Okay, so we're now in submode number 2. As you can see, the dial has been moved over to 2, and this one is called LFO on envelope, and basically the speed and the center of the phasing effect are both increased as your input signal grows louder. Now what that means is basically you get almost like a darker sound at softer pick attacks, and a brighter and more phased or sort of faster phase signal at higher pick attacks, and it's easier just to hear it. So this is what we get. Okay, now with all of these submodes, if I hit the tap tempo button, it will basically reverse the effect. So now louder signals have the opposite effect. So if I hit the tap tempo button, you'll see the green LED comes on, and now softer playing yields the more brighter, faster phased effects, and louder playing it basically reduces that effect. So it's very cool to have the functionality of being able to reverse the effect round so that you can have it both ways basically. Okay, so let's have a look at submode number 3. Okay, so submode number 3 is really easy to explain. It's called speed follows envelope, and in this particular case it's the envelope of a sine wave, and the deal is basically as you play louder, the speed of the phasing effect within this sine wave increases. As you play softer, it decreases. Okay, so with our release setting fairly low and our attack time at medium, as I pick harder, you'll hear the speed increase, so we get this. Okay, if I increase the sensitivity, reduce the attack time, and increase the release, we now get this. Okay, and again, if I hit the tap tempo switch, in effect, it reverses it. So now louder will make the speed slower. This is a cool effect with strumming as well, because if you roll the guitar's volume down a bit and strum some parts and strum louder and softer, obviously you can change the speed. So now obviously within that you've got all sorts of control over the resonance peaks, the number of stages of phasing, so you can really tailor that sound how you want it. Okay, let's have a look at the next submode, submode number 4. Submode number 4 essentially works the same as submode number 3 in that the speed of the phaser follows the envelope of your playing, but this time we're using the random waveform, which was waveform number 8 on the unit when we were back in knob and tap mode. So now we get a much more random sounding phase effect when we play hard. So we get this kind of idea. Very cool. If we set the sensitivity lower, okay, again, easily reversible using the tap tempo, so it functions the other way around. Okay, let's have a look at submode number 5, where we get into what we call trigger modes. Okay, submode number 5 is called follow trigger, and in this case the pick attack is triggering a response in the unit as opposed to following the envelope of the way you're playing. It's actually triggering something to happen within the unit, and when it hits peak volume in submode number 5, what's going to happen is it's going to make the unit go from maximum phasing down to minimum phasing. Now on the LED represented here, maximum phasing is the LED on full, and if I pick really hard you'll see it go red and then basically dull out. There you go, and then back in again. So what this means is you can play regularly, you can play a chord, and then it's on maximum phasing. As soon as you hit a note really hard, it's going to basically make the phasing go from maximum to minimum, and you get this effect. Really cool sound, great for creating that little kind of, again, very vocal nature to the end of the chord. And again, that can be completely tweaked using the sensitivity and the ratio control, the release control and the attack times. Give it a faster attack time, and you'll see so fast you can't even hear it. If we go to medium, Okay, so very, very musical. A little with all of these submodes, a little bit of practice is required to get them to sound good, and I'm still working on it myself. You know, there's so much to do with this unit. I'm still figuring a lot of this stuff out, but it's one of these that kind of a unit that makes you experiment with sounds and makes you write music in a different way. Okay, let's have a look at submode number 6. Okay, so this is submode number 6, and for this particular one I've set the blend a little bit higher so you can really get the effect of this, because it's very, very cool actually, very interesting idea, and it's called Trigger Random Level, and it works exactly like submode number 5, but basically the amount of phasing at maximum or minimum is basically set to a random level every single time it hears a trigger. So again, you can see this by the LED. If I basically play a note that triggers the higher volume notes, you'll see the LED drop out to a certain level. So here's a loud note. And another one. LED just got a little bit darker, brighter, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So I hope you can see it on the video, maybe not, but basically as I'm playing, the LED is getting brighter and darker. This is this LED here, and that's basically controlling the amount of phasing that we're getting. So let me do this in context and let you hear how this sounds on a chordal part. So as I pick hard, you'll hear the phasing change. So that's very, very cool for kind of creating different colours for different parts of the chordal part that you're playing. Okay, now if I reduce the release time right down to pretty much 0 and play a lead line, now what we get is every time I hit the note hard, we get a different sound to each of the notes. Which lends a very kind of unpredictable character to the sound that we're getting. Okay, so really unpredictable, very, very kind of musical and interesting sounding. So there's a lot you can do with this pedal as far as, you know, developing your sound for both lead stuff and chordal stuff, and it just inspires you to write. Okay, let's have a look at the next submode. Okay, submode number 7 is basically a rhythmic submode that allows you to create really cool, interesting sounding rhythmic patterns. And there are 5 rhythms that you can use. And you can see there the LED, the green LED, the tap LED, is actually dancing away to a particular rhythm. And this first rhythm is in 3/4. Now I select the different rhythms by using the ratio knob here. So each of the ratios gives me a different rhythm. So if I move up to the next, we've got a different rhythm, so on and so forth. Keep moving around, we get different rhythms for each of the ratio settings. And the release control is basically going to control how abruptly the phasing moves between those different rhythmic elements. So to give you a quick example, here's a quick chord. The release is on 0. This is our 3/4 rhythm. It's basically a quarter note, 2 dotted eighth notes, and a quarter note. Okay, now if I move the release switch further up, you'll hear it's a smoother transition between the different elements, I should say, of the rhythm. So it's a much smoother transition. It's almost like having a portamento effect on a monophonic synth that we slide between the different rhythmic values. Okay, so I actually prefer it when it's all the way back. I think it's got a very cool kind of, again, vocal quality. And basically each of the rhythms is subtly different and gives you different qualities, basically. So what I'll do is I'll really quickly run through those different rhythms and let you hear how they sound. Okay, here's the second rhythm. Now this rhythm is a 2/4 rhythm that consists of 2 dotted eighth notes and an eighth note. Okay, let's do the next one. So we go up to a half ratio, and this one is a 5/4 rhythm that is basically an eighth note, 2 quarter notes, an eighth note, and 2 quarter notes. Okay. Okay, so this fourth rhythm is in 6/8, and basically it's 2 dotted eighth notes and 3 eighth notes. And before I actually play it, let me just point something out here. The LED will turn red at the beginning of each time round the rhythm. So if you ever get stuck, that's what you're looking out for basically. And you can also tap tempo in to increase or decrease the speed. So let me tap in a particular tempo. Okay, now if I have a listen now, you can hear the red LED is bringing my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so very useful having that tap tempo function in there as well, and the red LED to show us what's going on in terms of the rhythm. Okay, next one is our final rhythm. This is rhythm number 5. Okay, rhythm number 5 is in 4/4, and it has 2 dotted eighth notes, a quarter note, an eighth note, and a quarter note. And this gives us a very cool rhythm that we can use in 4/4. Okay, so again, using our red LED to figure out where the beginning of the rhythm is. There we go. Okay, submode 8 is called direct control mode, and basically you can use this mode if you don't have an expression pedal that you can connect to the control port. Basically without the expression pedal, this mode basically operates like submode 5 but allows you to control directly the amount of phase with the tap tempo switch or button. So as you press it, you're going to bring in phase effect, and as you depress it or let go of it, it's going to remove that effect again. So as I press down on the tap, you'll see the LED light up. As I let go, it gradually disappears. Now you can control the attack of that, or the amount of time it takes for it to rise to maximum value and then come back down again using the release and the attack time. So there we go. So if I give it a long release, now I'm going to play just a couple of notes, hit the pedal. Okay. adding some more resonance. Now, obviously, with a faster attack time and a faster release time. So as you can imagine, all sorts of fun can be had using that mode. Okay, so that sums up the rather extensive auto mode, and just leaves us with a few things more to say basically about the control port. So see you there. Okay, so the final thing to mention here, you can see we've got a picture of the unit from the side, and you can see the control port. Now the control port is a really useful feature that allows you to control the pedal using a variety of different options. You can use an expression pedal, you can use an external voltage control unit, you can use a tap tempo function, an external tap tempo. You could use audio, so you could plug in a drum machine or a synth, for instance, and and control the phasing effect from there via the audio. Or you can use MIDI, so you can plug the unit into your DAW or sequencer and have all the functions of the pedal controlled via MIDI from your sequencer. So all in all, super powerful unit. Amazing how much they've managed to fit into this tiny little box. So, hope you've enjoyed this demo. Check out www.empresseffects.com for more information and some more videos, and I will see you next time. Cheers.